Ever since the internet boom in early 2000s, the software industry needed a more stable integration between development and operations. And around 2008, a new role emerged called DevOps that bridged the gap between development and operations. In the same way, machine learning started gaining huge traction in the early 2000s, especially with deep learning revolution in 2012, and the industry desperately needed more and more stable operation between machine learning and operations. This was addressed in a research paper by Google called Hidden Technical Debt in Machine Learning Systems that states the problem like this. Developing and deploying ML system is relatively fast and cheap, but maintaining them over time is difficult and expensive. As you can see, we have a gap in machine learning systems where machine learning engineers innovate new architectures and new algorithms to stay up to the changing needs, while at the same time, the underlying data used to train the model starts to get outdated really fast. This type of issue is called model drifting and data drifting. Model drifting refers to a phenomenon where the underlying machine learning model currently being serviced is outpaced by the changing business requirements that require the model to either be retrained or revamped. Data drifting, on the other hand, refers to a phenomenon where the underlying data, such as population or demographics that were used, no longer match the actual training data. And this becomes especially critical to use cases where seasonality and consumer preferences change so fast. And both these problems typically require retraining the model with newer data and newer architecture, and managing this overhead in automating the pipeline requires a designated skill set. MLOps, or machine learning operations, bridges the continuous availability of the machine learning models by following a set of practices that helps stabilize this entire process. And organizations that struggle to address this critical challenge end up paying the price in either failing to launch the machine learning systems or lack agility in having always up-to-date machine learning systems. While roads from one MLOps to another might look different from one organization to another, the overarching aim for MLOps is to increase automation using CI/CD pipelines and improving quality of production. Increasing automation is a critical part in MLOps, and here similar roles apply from traditional DevOps, where the goal is to look at every step of the development and deployment tasks and try to introduce proper versioning of the machine learning model, testing, integration, and smooth deployment in a repeatable release. Unlike traditional DevOps, MLOps also have to look at changes that occur in the underlying data as new data becomes available, requiring strong data versioning and strong data pipeline that triggers automatically to retrain, revalidate, and redeploy the model so that data drifting, as mentioned earlier, doesn't happen. Another goal is to improve the quality of the already deployed models. Similar to how in traditional applications, there might be peak time when it comes to demand, being vigilant in the model's performance, not only in load and speed, but also making sure that key metrics in place that ensures prediction accuracy, latency, drift, and preventing bias and anomalies are extremely crucial part of MLOps. Another aspect of MLOps is the collaboration layer where you're working closely with ML engineers, DevOps engineers, data analysts, and security team to ensure that the underlying model is meeting the company's standard, and also create a stable environment for the entire team to confidently experiment new features, track and monitor trials and errors from the previous reruns, and having strong availabilities of the model, which requires the MLOps to stay on top of emerging technologies like MLflow, Kubeflow, Airflow, as well as tools that help orchestration and deployments like TensorFlow Extended, SageMaker Pipeline, and Vertex AI pipelines. All of this is becoming more and more important, especially as machine learning is starting to become more mainstream with the help of AI breakthroughs that are happening on a mass scale. Now that we covered some of the theory behind what MLOps is and where they bring their most value, let's look at some of the labs and learn from the practical side of it. All right, let's start with the labs. In this lab, we're diving into MLflow for production machine learning. This is perfect for anyone looking to understand how to track experiments, manage models, and handle the challenges that come with deploying ML systems in the real world. The first question gives us the mission briefing. It talks about two critical problems modern ML systems face: model drift, where your model becomes outdated as business needs change, and data drift, where your training data no longer matches your real-world population. Without proper tracking and versioning, you simply can't reproduce results, compare experiments, or safely deploy to production. Then it introduces MLflow as an open source MLOps platform that solves this experiment chaos. MLflow has three components: the tracking server, which records every experiment with parameters, metrics, and artifacts; the model registry, which provides version control for ML models like Git does for code; and projects for reproducible workflows, which we'll cover in future labs. The platform is loved by DevOps engineers because you can compare hundreds of experiments instantly, deploy models with one command, roll back to previous versions, and enable automated drift detection. Next, we're asked to verify our environment. This is straightforward. We run the verify environment script, and it checks that all our Python packages are installed, the dataset exists, the MLflow tracking directory is set up, and the MLflow UI is accessible. This is important because we need everything ready before diving into the actual tasks. The third question is crucial. It explains how to access the MLflow UI. The UI is running on port 5000, and to access it, we click the three dots menu in the top right corner, select the viewport, enter port 5000, and click Open Port. The MLflow UI then opens a new browser tab. We're told to keep this tab open because we'll use it after each task to visualize our experiments. This is where we'll see experiment dashboards, run comparison tables, metrics visualization charts, and model registry. Question 4 covers MLflow core concepts in more detail. Take a moment to explore the question yourself, as it reinforces what we learned in the mission briefing about the three components and why DevOps engineers need MLflow. It even shows a production scenario with different model versions at different stages. Now we need to get onto the hands-on part. Question 5 is an info page that prepares for task 1. It explains what a baseline model is and why we start with something simple like linear regression. It gives us a reference point to measure improvements against. We learn about the three metrics we'll be tracking. RMSE, or root mean squared error, measures prediction error magnitude. Lower is better, typically in the 20 to 30 millisecond range. R-squared score measures how well the model explains data variance, ranging from 0 to 1, with higher being the better. MAE, or mean absolute error, is the average prediction error, also lower is better, similar to RMSE but less effective to outliers. The expected result for our linear regression baseline are RMSE around 25 to 30 milliseconds, R-squared between 0.85 and 0.87, and MAE around 8 to 22 milliseconds. Question 6 is about our first actual task. In this question, we're asked to track our first machine learning experiment with parameters and metrics. We open task 1 baseline experiment Python file, and we'll see 4 to-dos to complete. The first to-do asks us to set up experiment name. The second to-do is to start an MLflow run. The third to-do has us log the model parameter, and the fourth to-do logs the RMSE metric. Once we complete these to-dos and run the script, we can open the MLflow UI and see our first tracked experiment with all the parameters and metrics. Question 7 prepares us for task 2 by explaining hyperparameters. Hyperparameters are settings we configure before training. Unlike model parameters, which are learned from data, hyperparameters control how the model learns. We'll be tuning 2 hyperparameters. Max depth controls how deep decision trees can grow, and will test values of 5, 10, and 15. Shallow trees with depth 5 are faster but may underfit, while deep trees with depth 15 are more complex and will give a better fit. N estimator is the number of trees in the forest, fixed at 100 for this task. More tree means more stable prediction but longer training time. The expected impact is that max depth of 5 typically requires an R-squared of about 0.88, which is underfit. Depth 10 gives us 0.91, which is a good balance. Depth 15 gives us 0.92, which is best for the dataset. In question 8, we're asked to compare random forests with different hyperparameter configuration. We work with the task 2 hyperparameter tuning file and complete our to-dos. We log the max depth parameter, batch log file parameters at once, log the R-squared score metric, and add a model family tag. After running the script, we refresh the MLflow UI, compare the runs, and find the best hyperparameters. Question 9 sets us up for task 3 by explaining model comparison. Different machine learning algorithms have different strengths. Comparing multiple models helps us find the best approach for our specific problem. We'll be comparing 3 model types. Linear regression, which is simple, fast, and interpretable, but may underfit complex patterns. Random forest, which is an ensemble of decision trees, handles nonlinear relationships well and is resistant to overfitting. and gradient boosting, which builds tree sequentially and often achieves the highest accuracy but is slower to train. The expected winner usually is gradient boosting with an R-squared around 0.94. Random forest comes in as close second at 0.92, and linear regression serves as baseline at 0.86. Question 10 is when we train 3 models and identify the best performer. We're working with the task 3 model comparison file, which has 3 to-dos. We log the model name, batch log all the metrics at once, and log the trained model as an artifact. After completion, we go into MLflow UI, sort it by R-squared, and see which models won. Question 11 explains the model registry before we dive into task number 4. The model registry provides version control for trained models, similar to how Git manages code versions. We'll register our best model, manage its lifecycle stages, and load it for production inference. The model lifecycle has 4 stages. None, which is the initial state when a model is registered. Staging, where the model is being tested before production. Staging, where the model is being tested before production deployment. Production, where the model is serving live predictions. And archived for deprecated models kept for reference. This matters because model registries enables us to track which model version is in production, roll back to previous version instantly if an issue arises, automate deployment pipelines based on stage transitions, and maintain an audit trail of model changes. In question 12, we're asked to register a model for production with version control. We work with task 4 model registry file, completing our 4 to-dos. We log the trained model, register the model with MLflow, transition it to the staging stage, and load the registered model for inference. After completion, we go into MLflow UI, click the Models tab, and see our registered models ready for deployment. Question 13 helps us understand the MLflow UI in depth. Explore this question yourself to learn about the different tabs like experiments, charts, models, and the compare view, and see how each is used in production scenarios like tracking model drift, A/B testing, rollbacks, and team collaboration. Finally, question 14 is our completion page and congratulates us on mastering experiment tracking with MLflow, hyperparameter tuning on comparison, multi-model evaluation and selection, model registry and versioning, MLflow UI navigation, and viewport access for web application. These are career-ready skills that helps us solve model drift, enable ML CI/CD pipelines, handle production deployment workflows, and facilitate team collaboration. Companies like Netflix, Uber, Databricks, and Microsoft all use MLflow in production. And with that, we're ready for production ML workflows.